this video, we are going to be discussing what happens when our pets die. I am currently in the process of getting ready to put one of my dogs to sleep. She's got cancer and she's having a hard time breathing, so it's been an emotional week for me. In order to kind of get through it, I decided to meditate and try to channel with my guides and any light beings that can kind of help me through this. And I got some pretty good information, so I just wanted to share it with you guys. Please keep in mind that all of this information is channeled through meditation, so if it resonates with you, then great. If not, that's totally fine. If you are a pet owner and you've had some pets die, or you have some pets that are getting older and you're just a little nervous about the future and how the whole process is going to happen, then continue watching because I think this will make you feel a little bit better. My name is Catherine. I'm an energy healer, spiritual coach, and nurse practitioner. If you want to work with me, you can go to my website at catherineglassman.com, or you can email me at hello@catherineglassman.com. So I want to share with you a story about my partner's dog passing away. He was 14 years old, so he was really old, and we knew that it was his time. His name was Bo. And the first time that I ever met him, I just instantly knew that his time was coming. And I've had that weird ability since my spiritual awakening, and I think that it also is in combination of me being a nurse. Nurses just have this weird intuition about those things. And so I think just the combination of the two, I just knew that his time was approaching. And so because I knew that his time was coming, I decided to reach out to a friend who is a professional psychic medium, and she is a great animal communicator. And so I asked her, if she could give me some information, if she kind of knew when it was coming. And she wasn't able to tell me when it was going to happen, but she did tell me that I would definitely be there. And at first I was a little skeptical because I was like, well, we would have to be living together. Like, I'd have to be there all the time. How would that even... There's no way that I would be able to really predict that and be there. So, whatever. I just accepted the information and moved on. She had me reach out to one of our friends who is an animal communicator, and she's very new to her abilities, but that's just her thing, is just animal communication. So I spoke with her and she gave me a little bit of information, and it was really nice, and that was that. So probably a year later, I am at home and I'm with the dogs, and Bo's there, and I give them all rawhides just as a treat, which was not a good decision because Bo ended up swallowing the whole thing. He just chewed on it for like 10 minutes and then just swallowed it. I immediately regretted that decision. I did not think that he would do that. I've had dogs. At the time, I had a pit bull and a German shepherd. I had them for 13 years. They never swallowed rawhides before, but my partner did warn me that he had a tendency of swallowing, and he was a little wary about rawhides, but at the time I was like, it'll be all right. He's not going to do that. And he did. Needless to say, I regret that. So he swallowed it and he was fine initially, but as the night progressed, he just started to act a little funny. He wasn't throwing up and he wasn't gagging or anything like that. His behavior just started to change. Now, he's had some weird episodes in the past, and we've always been a little scared that this was it, he's passing right now. And it never really happened. And so when this was happening, I was trying to choose whether or not to reach out to my partner because he wasn't home. But I definitely was paying attention. And so I'm having like my panicky moment, right? And every time I am in my mind as a human and I'm panicking, I'm very much out of my feelings and out of my spiritual mode, right? So I'm just watching him. I'm panicking. I'm like, do I call him? What do I do? Do I text him? And so I started texting my partner, and he wasn't answering because he was busy. And I was like, it's okay. Maybe this is a false alarm, whatever. And during my panic, there was a moment where I felt a presence come over me. It was as if somebody took their hand and put it on my shoulder to kind of say, it's okay. Like, everything is okay. And so I kind of calmed down, but I was still texting him, and eventually I tried to call him. Again, he was busy, and so he didn't answer, but I left a message and said to call me back. So by this time, Bo is starting to breathe a little funny, and it just didn't look good. Then that turned into him not being able to even stand up. And that's when I knew that this was pretty serious. So I called him again, and there was no answer, but he eventually called me back. And I just said, you need to come home right now. And I told him what happened. I told him that he swallowed the rawhide and he was not happy that I gave it to him. And I am not happy either. So my partner comes home and he looks at Bo and he tries to get him to stand up and he just won't stand. And he said, it's almost like his body is giving out on him. As soon as he said that, I immediately knew that this was it. He was going to die. At this time, I wasn't so confident in my ability to sense these things that I wasn't just going to tell him like, hey, I think he's dying. But I just would say, and I still would never say that because at the end of the day, I'm still human and I could be wrong. And that's something pretty serious to be wrong about. So, it's not even about me and it's really about him, between him and his dog. So I just kind of started saying like, okay, well, maybe we should just prepare just in case something happens. And so we started calling around to, veterinarians that will come to the home and provide either like a hospice or like euthanasia. And so we started calling some places, and because it was so late, we really couldn't get anyone to come until the next day around 11 a.m. And so we figured we would just camp downstairs and just be with Bo. So we decided to take shifts. And so Bo is laying on his bed and the other dogs are around him. And my pit bull was very close to Bo. And so he just laid right next to him and it was just the sweetest thing. So my partner decides to lay downstairs with him on the couch and I go upstairs to go to sleep. So I go to sleep and I wake up to Bo barking. And, Bo would bark every once in a while and it was super cute because like it almost felt like he was yelling at me when he would do it. And even my partner would laugh. Like he would just come up in my face and just bark at me. And I'm like, what do you want? What's your problem? Okay, so it was like a thing, right? So I wake up and I want to say it was around like 5 o'clock in the morning. I wake up to Bo barking. I went from horizontal to vertical in like 0.2 seconds. I was up and out of that bed and I ran downstairs and I looked at my partner. I was like, is everything okay? And he like wakes up as if nothing happened. And he was like, what? And I was like, he was barking, wasn't he? He was like, no. And I look at Bo and he is just laying there. So obviously he physically wasn't barking, but I knew that he was getting my attention. I'm not gonna cry during this video. Okay, and so I come downstairs and I'm wide awake now. I'm not going back to sleep. And my partner just continues to kind of rest. And I'm just sitting there, minding my own business, kind of keeping an eye on Bo. And some time passes by. And Bo's breathing started to change. Working in the medical field or as a nurse, all of us nurses know that if there is an impending death, once there is a change in their breathing, it usually means that it's happening. And so his breathing started to change. And for whatever reason, I decided to start recording on our home camera. So I hit record and I get up and I go grab my stethoscope and I go lay down by Bo and I'm kind of spooning him and I put the stethoscope on his heart and his heart was racing. It was so fast. It sounded like a hummingbird and he was really hot, he was bloated, and I started to cry. And in that moment, I just started to talk to Bo and I started to pray. And I held him and I said, Archangel Michael, Archangel Azrael, please come and take him, escort him with you up to heaven. Now, if you're not familiar, Archangel Michael is the angel of protection and Archangel Azrael is the angel of death. He is the one that comes and escorts souls back to source frequency. And so I'm just holding him and crying and saying, just take him, it's okay. And I said, Bo, it's okay, you can go now. As soon as I said that, boom, his heart rate started to drop fast. And so it was so sudden that I almost had a hard time processing like what was going on. And so I just stood up and I went and got my partner and said, you need to come lay with him right now. And he was a little groggy and kind of just waking up and I was like, it's happening, it's time. So he gets up and he just lays down next to Bo and he's just kind of holding him and just being there with him. And I put the stethoscope back on his chest and his heart rate just dropped and dropped until I heard his very last beat. And then he was gone. It wasn't until a couple of hours later that the veterinarian came to the home to pick Bo up to take him to the crematory. And then my partner had to leave to go to work. He figured that it would probably just help keep his mind off of it, and I stayed at home. And as soon as he left, I was crying, sure, but I was trying to keep it together, to just stay strong for him. And as soon as he left, I just cried like the biggest baby. And I just started talking to Bo. And I said, if you're okay, if you made it to the other side, then please let me know. Please give me a sign. And I didn't really get anything initially. And I was a little disappointed, but that's okay. So I decided to take out my ghost hunting app. So I have an app. It's literally called Ghost Hunting. And what it does is if you leave it out in an area or something and you start asking questions, then whatever energy is there can use your phone to generate words. Now, I don't recommend that anybody just use this because, it's not wise to just start interacting with entities or energies if you don't have experience and if you're not well protected. So just a little disclaimer there. But I felt pretty comfortable using it, so I started using it and I was holding it and I started asking questions and nothing was coming up. Well, there's a particular area right next to the couch on the floor that Bo would always sit at. And so I sat in that area and I took the phone and I lowered it to where he would normally sit. And I asked him again, are you okay? Did you make it over there? And a word popped up finally, and the word was Chloe. And I looked at it and I was like, and immediately I got this vision of him running around with another dog, and it looked like a bully breed or like a bulldog, and Bo is just running around happily with this dog. And then I remembered that my partner said that Bo had a best friend, and I wasn't sure what the name was. So I texted him and I said, hey, what was the dog's name of Bo's best friend? And it was Chloe. And so with him giving me that image, it told me that he made it safe and that Chloe was the one to come and get him. Gosh, I am not going to make it through this video. So I was like, okay, he for sure made it. So that's great. So I texted my friend who told me that I would be there. And I said, hey, you were right. I was there. And I told her exactly what happened. And she just says, oh my God, that is amazing. You need to text our other friend. So I texted our other friend, the animal communicator, and I told her what happened. And she sent me a picture of a drawing that she drew. And it was of two different hands with paws in them from one dog. So it was one dog with two different hands. And she said, I don't know why I felt compelled to draw this, but I just drew this like a day ago. And it's of two angels lifting a dog up to heaven. And she said, I didn't know who this dog was and I didn't know why I was drawing this, but I just felt compelled to draw it. And she said, when I was drawing this dog said one thing, and he said, love lifted me. For the next couple of weeks after that, I kept seeing Bo. And when he was alive, he had a lot of arthritis and bulging disc in his back, so he really couldn't walk very well, let alone run. But every time I would see him, he was running and he was fast and he was happy and he was barking and he was just so happy and at peace. I would occasionally see him with Chloe. And so even though Bo was doing just fine, my pit bull Belvedere was not. He was very, very sad after Bo's passing. He fell into a depression for a couple of months and it was just so sad. Later on in that year, we had to put my German Shepherd Charlie to sleep. She had bone cancer and she was in a lot of pain. But the whole time, she was just so joyful and just a happy dog. It's like she definitely was serving a spiritual purpose for me. Now, what's funny about Charlie is that I knew at a very young age that I wanted a German Shepherd and I wanted to name her Charlie. I ended up getting an animal reading for her years before that, and the person told me that Charlie has like a very bright and yellow kind of aura, and that when I die, Charlie will be the one to walk me through the gates of heaven. Well, what's interesting is that I named Charlie after the German Shepherd in the movie All Dogs Go to Heaven. So I know for a fact that it was always destined for me to have Charlie. I was never really too worried about Charlie making it to the other side because she was just such a spiritual dog in general that I could just tell that her soul was very advanced. And so when we put her to sleep, of course, I was absolutely sad and devastated, but I knew that we were making the right decision. And so that day, I didn't feel her and I didn't see anything. I didn't have any experiences. But the next day, when I woke up, I swear the entire house was full of just bright yellow light. It was as if like the sun was inside the house. Hopefully you don't have to see me cry throughout this entire video, but I apologize. It's just, pets are amazing. So anyway, it's like her energy was like bright and yellow, and it like just hugged me, like just sunshine. And there was one other time where I ever felt that kind of energy. And it was the second time where I was channeling angelic energy. And so that was her way of telling me that, of course, she made it to the other side. And not only was she on the other side, but she was of the angelic realm. So now we had one dog left, and it was Belvedere, my Pitty, my emotional, sweet, loving pit bull. He was so emotional. Now we knew that after our first dog died, that he went into a depression, and we knew that we needed to be prepared for him to slip into another one once Charlie passed away. And the day that we had to put Charlie to sleep, that same day, Belvedere spiked a fever, and he was not really responsive. He was not well. And so literally, as the vet is putting Charlie to sleep and gathering, Charlie back into his car to take her to the crematory, as soon as that vet left, we picked up Belvedere and took him to the vet because he was not well. And that was when we found out that he had cancer too. He had a growth on his chest that we were just kind of keeping an eye on, but that thing was like really inflamed. And so he got admitted for a day, and they were giving him fluids and just trying to get his temperature down and get him comfortable. And so obviously it was a long night for both of us, and I look like garbage. I have been ugly crying. My face is swollen. My hair is a mess. And we're just sitting in the vet, just waiting on Belvedere and making sure he's okay. And I'm just sitting there, and I look out the window, and I see this dog start to come towards us. And the dog is on a leash with someone. But this dog is literally making eye contact with me. And I'm just having this weird moment with this dog. And I was like, this is so weird. When the dog comes in, we both look at the dog, and I tell him, like, doesn't that dog look just like Bo? That's weird. Bo is pretty unique looking, and I've never really seen a dog that looked like him, but this dog looked exactly like him, and she just kept staring at us and just kind of smiling and panting, and I was just having this weird moment with this dog. And so the lady, I hear her talking, and she says, yeah, I just found this dog tied up in an abandoned parking lot. We don't know who the owner is. We've tried to take her to the shelter, but all the shelters are full. So now we're here because we're trying to see if she has a chip, but she doesn't have a chip, and I can't take her, so I just don't know what to do. My partner and I look at each other, and I was like, we're taking this dog home, right? And it wasn't even a question. And so we just told the lady, like, hey, we'll take her. And they were so grateful and so kind, and yeah, we just took her home. So we take her home, we give her a bath and cut her nails, and this poor dog was so skinny. It was very clear that she hadn't really been eating very well. Over the next couple of days, she started pooping like items. And the biggest item to come out of her body was the rope from a robe. And I think that she was just so hungry that she just started eating random things. And so eventually she passed that, and we just gave her food, and she started packing on weight, like healthy weight after that. And so we brought Belvedere home, and he was still kind of sad and depressed. But this new dog just kept laying next to him and kept licking him. And it was like Bo all over again. It was so weird. And so we had to put Belvedere on steroids to help with the cancer, but we knew that steroids was just going to buy us a little bit more time to get him comfortable, but eventually he would be passing pretty soon. But over the course of those few months, he started to just become a little happier again. It was like this new dog started to just bring out the best in him. It was just such a blessing. Like, where did this dog come from? This dog is exactly what we needed, what Belvedere needed. And so just a few months after that, Belvedere did pass away. And when he passed, I kept seeing him a lot, and he would always sit next to me, and he would just kind of bark at me. But for the first time ever, I actually heard words this time. Now, with Belvedere, I have a lot of regrets because he had some struggles when he was kind of getting older. He was a little emotional, and he was reactive, and he has attacked some dogs, and I would get super frustrated and so angry with him. But the only reason why he got aggressive with other dogs is because he was humped by a dog. Before then, he was perfectly fine. He got along with other dogs, like at the dog park, he was great. But after that, he just became aggressive and challenged all the dogs that were his size. And so throughout our time together, like I just got so frustrated with him when really I just was a young dog mom and I didn't know what I was doing and I regret it. And so I was having a really hard time during his passing because I felt like I could have done better. I know I could have done better. And so after he died, I kept seeing him sit next to me, but he was saying words this time. And he would say, "Mama, it's okay. I love you." So naturally, because I'm a skeptic, I ended up getting a reading for him too. And I mean, when I get readings, they're with friends, right? Because they're amazing. But my friend confirmed, she's like, "Yeah, it's like he's sitting next to you all the time." And I was like, okay, that makes sense because I can feel it. She was like, "Charlie is off doing her own thing, but Belvedere, he stays around you and he says he loves you very much." So in 1 year, we lost 3 dogs. But now we had a new dog and we decided to name her Chance. So now Chance is sick and she is having a hard time breathing and it's time for her to go soon. And when people would ask us, "Why did you name her Chance?" Initially I would say, well, I named her after the dog from Homeward Bound, right? It's the pity in Homeward Bound. And my partner would be like, well, it's because she got a second chance at life. And yesterday, when I was having a really hard time with having to get ready to say goodbye to Chance, during meditation, I realized that we named her Chance because she gave us a chance to have a gentle transition to not having any of our dogs anymore. Chance started coughing just a few months ago, and initially we thought that it was kennel cough, and then I started to worry that it was this new respiratory illness that has been going around, and we ended up taking x-rays, and sure enough, there's just a lot of growth in her lungs, and the doc looks like it's cancer. And they said that she is fairly old looking. We don't really know how old she is, and so this is very much plausible. So obviously I was devastated and she has only been getting worse, so we're just kind of keeping her comfortable. But yesterday I was having a really hard day and just kind of, over it, right? Like, why? Dogs are literally just unconditional love. And so why do we keep losing them? This is just not fair. And they quickly told me that yes, she served as a way of helping you transition into letting your other dogs go. But we also served her in having the ability to give her a peaceful transition, which not a lot of people have control over their own death. And so when you do, that is really a beautiful gift. And so this has always been contracted for us to be the family to help her cross to the other side. And so I'm just sitting there and just asking for help for me too, and obviously to help Chance cross over. I'm just so sad and just very vulnerable, and my heart is cracked open. So then I just started asking questions about animals in general. And the first question I asked is, do all animals cross over to the other side? And the answer was no, they don't. There apparently are some animal souls that can get stuck in between. And I definitely did not want to believe this because my human self always wanted to believe that no matter what, animals would just cross over back to source frequency immediately. Because why not? They're animals. They're innocent. They didn't really commit any sins, right? Like, there's no reason for them to get stuck. And they told me that animals can choose to not cross over into the light. And this is because each animal, each living creature, is a soul. Some of these souls are highly advanced. Some of these souls contracted to come into an animal body during this lifetime. And an animal and humans and every soul that exists has been given the gift of free will. And if they choose to not go back, then that is something that they can choose freely. So it's not something about them being punished or anything like that. It is simply, basically what they showed me is they gave me the image of an animal being hurt or stuck somewhere, right? And then there's a human that comes along that tries to help the animal. The animal has to choose to trust the human and to go to them in order to get help, okay? That is them exercising their free will. And it's pretty much the same thing. Now this makes sense because I have heard other channelers say that they have seen animal spirits that have not crossed over. So that makes sense. I honestly just didn't want to believe that. I guess I was just always under the impression that animals were helpless, and that's just really not the case. They're just a different species that operate differently, but at the end of the day, they still have a choice. So then I asked, okay, well, what about pets? Like, I know that my pets crossed over because I made sure they did. But what about the pets that belong to owners that aren't really spiritual? Like, what happens to those souls? And they quickly reminded me of my experience with Bo when he said, "Love lifted me." That is what usually helps them cross over to the other side. Even if the owners are not spiritual, or even if they don't believe in ghosts or crossing over or the afterlife or anything like that, it's purely the love that they have for their animal that gets them to the other side. It's this love that gave the animal this ability to just trust and to surrender, because it's all a frequency, right? Source frequency is obviously the highest frequency that you can possibly get to. I think it's a frequency that's indescribable, but a close runner-up is love. That's just so beautiful. So then I asked, what can we do to ensure that all animals and all pets cross over back to source frequency? And they said, just talk to them. Tell them that you love them, that you're always going to love them, and how much joy they brought into your life. And tell them that where they're going is beautiful. It's the best place that you can possibly think of. And that even when you get there, you can still visit your human companions. You're not really leaving them. And eventually, they'll be able to join you on the other side, because I have seen heaven myself during my astral travels, and it is the most beautiful place of peace and serenity that you will ever encounter. It's beautiful. And so if you just talk to these animals and just let them know that where you can go is amazing, and when you talk to them, imagine a white light portal opening in the sky, just welcoming them back home. And every time I see a portal, it literally looks like the same white light that shows up in the movie Ghost. It's just this soft, serene white light that is so welcoming and so full of love that it makes it really easy to go. But sometimes they choose not to go because they are fearful or they don't want to leave their human companions. But as long as you just let them know, like, it's okay. We'll still be able to talk and see each other, but it's okay. You can go home now. And that will usually do the trick. You can even do this with other animals that you see out in the wild. I know that there is a channeler out there that every time she sees roadkill, she will open up a white light portal just so she can give that animal a chance to cross over. And so the fact that she does that, it aligns with everything that I heard during this meditation. So thanks for sticking around and allowing me to stumble through that, through my emotional mess. I appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Give it a thumbs up if you did, and consider subscribing. And I will see you guys next time.